Hey, welcome to the Insurance Buzz. This is your host, Michael Weaver, and we have a special guest today, Mr. Steve Suggs. Steve, how are you this morning?
I am doing great. Appreciate the opportunity to be with you today.
Absolutely. I'm just excited to have you. We're about to get buzzed on the buzz today, Steve, so I'm pumped for today's call. But before we get into this, I'd love if you just introduced yourself for a couple of minutes, tell people a little bit about who you are.
Sure, yeah. I graduated college with a business degree back in 1983 and then spent the next 15 years at Northwestern Mutual. I was a sales leader there and also an MDRT producer. And my current business partner and I saw this big gap in the marketplace of a best practice recruiting system. So we came together and built that recruiting system, and we spent all of our time at this point helping organizations that hire salespeople. We train them on a best practice hiring system. We also do sales training. We also do train managers on how to coach salespeople. And I spent most of my day I spent on the telephone with managers who are hiring salespeople, and we discuss their candidates, the pros and cons of those candidates, and try to help them understand the risk that they're going to face if they hire this person.
Absolutely. All right. So you've only been doing it for a little while, not too.
Yeah, I've been doing this for 22 years. I've been doing this. 15 years as a financial planner, and then 22
Okay.
years at this. So,
No, I love that. So the one thing, and I know I told you this before we got started, but you had made a post on LinkedIn around trends that you're currently seeing in our environment with like that millennial and even younger generation, and I think that'd be a great just place to start. What trends are you currently seeing that business owners, agents should really keep their eye on not only being attractive to hiring in the right people, but maybe characteristics you're seeing as well?
yeah, we're really in unprecedented times in America right now. One of the I spent a lot of my time talking agents out of hiring people because it's very frustrating. You know, you have a lot of applicants, and you really try to get to know them and understand why they want to do this job, and so a lot of applicants are just coming to the table with. I want to work for you because you're closer to home than my current employer. I want to try something different. My friends tell me I can sell. And so what we're finding is that it's harder than ever. Even prior to COVID, it was difficult to find individuals who can sell, who can work in an agent's office and be someone who can turn a stranger into a customer, or even on the service side, can service and sell. It was difficult prior to COVID, and then you throw the last 2 years into this, and what has happened is you've seen the culmination of a lot of things going on in our culture for really the past 30 years. It's caught up with us. And I was having a conversation with an agent before this today, and he was looking at a candidate. It was a 36-year-old woman who she really didn't have the perfect profile to be a service salesperson, but her background, she had managed a Coach store, high-end handbags. She had managed Williams-Sonoma store for 5 years. So she had this track record of somebody who was really defying her personality. She was very intelligent, so that she had that going for her. So the conversation was around, what's different about, this particular individual. And he really started digging into her background, and he asked her a lot of questions about, what did her parents teach her about work ethic? What did her parents teach her about personal responsibility? And it was obvious that her parents taught her that if it is to be, it's up to you. We're not going to take care of you after 18 years old. You've got to get a job. You're going to learn how to work. And they taught her how to work. They taught her personal responsibility. She was ambitious. She climbed the ladder of success. On that same telephone call, we looked at a 25-year-old. his intelligence scores on our learning style, could have gone to law school smart.
Okay.
His track record was he got out of high school. He went to 2 years of college and got an associate's degree and became a warehouse worker. And then he decided to move from a city in Texas up to Tulsa, Oklahoma, back in with his parents. And so you have those two stark examples of what's going on. And what I talked to the agent about was really the three-legged stool of what's going on in our culture. Low education, low work ethic, and low sense of responsibility. That's what's happening. That's what's really wrong with our culture. That's why it's hard to find people to work in a financial services office. That's why it's hard to find people when you have a job that's very complex in nature. Mm-hmm. And it's pay for performance. It's not pay to try. And 34% of the people between the ages of 18 and 34 still live at home.
What percentage was that?
34%.
Holy
So a
smokes.
third of the candidates that you're going to be interviewing are still living at home. Well, why is that? Well, successful parents have this attitude of, I don't want my children to have to struggle the way I did. It's an iPad at age 8. It's a car at age 15 that they didn't have to work for. So there's this sense of entitlement and this lack of teaching them how to work. If you want something, then you need to work for that. If you're intelligent, so I'm going to require that you study and you learn. Schools pass everybody. Everybody gets a trophy. I look at resumes and I look at cover letters, and people don't know where commas go. They don't understand capitalization. They can't write a compound sentence. And so it's this real epidemic of low work ethic, low intelligence, and low sense of responsibility. And it's just a culmination of parents not teaching that. Well, psychologists will tell you that work ethic and sense of responsibility is really learned prior to age 10. It's the simple things. We're all going to sit down and eat dinner together, and you're 4 years old, you're out of your high chair, and you're going to sit in your chair. You're not going to get up, and we're going to sit and have dinner together, just disciplining them in the simple things. It's time for you to clean up your room. In 30 minutes, I'm going to come back in there, and if your room's not cleaned up, then this is the consequences. And if the room's not cleaned up, the parent must follow up with those consequences. And so there's this what I consider misplaced empathy. You can have misplaced empathy as a parent where your 4-year-old says, I'd like another cookie, please. They've already had 3. You say no, and so they lie on the floor and pitch a fit. Mm-hmm. So empathy is, well, I really don't like the fact that my child is upset. I want to try to modify this behavior. So misplaced empathy is you give them another cookie, and they're 20 pounds overweight.
Okay.
Correct empathy is, I want my child to be a responsible adult. So I need to figure out how to modify their behavior to the point that they understand why it's not good for them to do what they want to do all the time, why there must be boundaries, why they must learn to work hard and have a sense of responsibility. And the parents who put in the work and put in the effort at that young age, it's just a very small window. Because when they're teenagers, we're just trying to keep them alive. And so that window is being missed. And it's been missed by a large number of parents. And that's why we still have 34% of those individuals still living at home.
Okay. So You covered a lot right there. I love that because this is exactly why I wanted to reach out to you because I've followed you for a long time. I know you're super intelligent. You're like a magician behind the screen. So I got it. I just want to go over a few things. So number one, 34%. That's wild to me. Of 18 to 35-year-olds are living at home. The one thing you mentioned though is you talking a lot of people out of hiring right now because I love that because the wrong candidate is going to end up costing you way more money in the long run. And so I love that you hit on that to very first start. And then the three-legged stool. I was taking notes as you were talking. So low intelligence, correct?
Yes.
And then low, you didn't say work ethic, but what was the term you
Yes.
used? Okay.
Low work ethic.
Okay. And what was the third one?
Low sense of responsibility.
Okay.
And
I
let me
love that.
define responsibility, personal responsibility. You believe if it is to be, it's up to me. I'm not a victim. Yes, I've been bullied, but I'm going to thank the bully. Thank you for learning to me how to fight for what I want in life. It's my job to pick up a load and trudge up the mountain. I need to figure out what I want to do with my life. I need to set some goals. I need to put together a plan for how I want to get there. It's my responsibility to do that. I'm not going to depend on somebody to give me something. I'm not going to depend on getting lucky. My goal is not happiness and free time. My goal is becoming a productive citizen. And a lot of interview questions that we ask, we find out that most individuals, their goal is happiness and free time and a job that's not stressful.
Okay. I love that. So talk to me a little bit because I'm having conversations with agents all day like yourself. And obviously the biggest issue right now is finding the right people, recruiting. But this actually explains a lot right now from the low intelligence standpoint. So I see agents finding people, they think that they're going to be a good fit regardless of the characteristics, and we'll get into that here in a second, but they're having a major issue passing their life insurance test. I mean, I don't know how many agents I hear all across the country, it doesn't matter if it's in New York, Georgia, California, Colorado, they find these candidates, but there's a large percentage that can't pass their test. What do you think is the reasoning behind that right now?
It's the low education.
Okay.
School systems do not hold students accountable for learning. Everybody passes, everybody gets a trophy. The teachers aren't paid enough to care. They just want to get those people out, get the next group in, get their paycheck, and go home. Now, that's not universal. Of course, there are great teachers out there who care. But for the most part, they don't. It's just a low-paying job. So we really do have a broken educational system. And parents put the burden on the teacher. The teacher puts the burden on the parent. Nobody accepts the responsibility. So all of a sudden, you've got these individuals where their frontal lobe has not developed yet. So they just want to have fun and free time, and nobody's holding them accountable to anything. And then all of a sudden they wake up, they're 25 years old, and they have a list of mistakes in their biography. And one of the mistakes is, I really didn't study and care the way I should have.
Yep.
Or I went to college, but I majored in psychology. The number one major in America is psychology. The number one reason that people major in psychology is, I really need to fix myself. And we have a joke around the office. What do you call somebody with a degree in psychology? An applicant for a sales job. And the reason is, you can't do anything. You might as well have a degree in 14th century poetry if you have a degree in psychology. Because if you want to make money as a psychologist, you have to get your master's and your PhD and become a psychotherapist. That's how you make money. And so it's even people who go to college, they're choosing majors that you can't do anything with. and make money in today's economy. So you have the low education, and then you have the misplaced education.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it
Yep.
comes to passing licensing, a simple solution to that is give them an intelligence test. And then look at their education level and look at their work history. High school education and 3 retail jobs. And look at the and give them a good intelligence test. There are some out there that are it's old science.
For sure.
We've taken away the time limit on our assessment. We discovered that we want to know, do they know the answers to these 35 questions? And then we measure how long it takes them to get to the answer. So that's the new science. So if you're using an assessment that has a time limit, the score is based upon the number of questions they answered. So you get a lot of false positives. So it's really figuring out the intelligence level. It's more of a puzzle. You can have somebody who scores kind of below average on the intelligence test, but they have a 3.0 GPA in a business degree from a reputable university. They have the average score on the college entrance exam is a 21. So you just ask them, what's your ACT score? That's a better measure of intelligence. It's not a perfect test, but it's the most comprehensive test that we have today. So there's a lot of questions that you can ask around that, and it's really the first thing to figure out. If they're not smart enough, nothing else matters.
Yeah.
And the
you have to.
Yeah, the tools are there.
You have to be able to get the license.
Yeah, the tools are there. And so begin with intelligence. If they're not intelligent enough, go sell some life insurance and stop interviewing them.
Okay. So, man, there's a lot of routes I could take this. So, I want to hear what are some so if an agent didn't want to invest in a system like Can They Sell or whatever it may be, there's lots of tests out there. They just want to do everything themselves. What are some characteristics that you find? And I like to ask because I look for some characteristics, but I'd love to hear your perspective on this. What are characteristics of good salespeople that you are finding or that you found throughout the years?
Well, we've broken down the human psyche into categories. Because before you can measure what makes a good salesperson, you have to ask the question, well, what do you measure? And I think that's your question. What do you measure? And then the other question is, well, how do you measure that? Well, personality is one of the things that you measure. And when I talk about personality, I'm talking about hardwired traits. A person's pace of work is hardwired. People choose accounting or to be a heart surgeon, or if they really want to enjoy what they're doing, they choose the occupation that fits their personality. Somebody who's very restless for results, that person who can't sit still. They need instant gratification. Those people make good salespeople because if they make 8 presentations a day, they get excited about that. If they sell 40 to 50 applications a month, you're hitting some gratification there about every 2 hours. People who are more patient and methodical, they don't really pay attention to how much time is passing when they're working. So their conversations are long. They spend too much time presenting and preparing the quote. So we were looking for that person who's impatient for results. And obviously, we're looking for somebody who's an extrovert. It's probably the most obvious thing that extroverts talk to people with less stress. Introverts have a lot of anxiety having to ask people to buy things. And then we want people who have enough compassion that they're good listeners, but their compassion is not so high that they're sensitive to rejection. And we want people who don't get bogged down in the details. Those are hardwired traits. We can measure that. So we have a benchmark that, the best salespeople, and we created that benchmark by having salespeople take our assessment, and we collected their production data. We actually had agents send us their production data. We rank ordered that, high, moderate, and low, and we created a benchmark. If you want a high producer, here are their scores on the personality assessment. And we've worked with Dr. Larry Kraft, and for 45 years, he's been assessing salespeople. The scores are always the same. You want a fast-moving extrovert.
Okay.
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 So
a fast moving extrovert.
yeah.
I like that.
Now,
Okay.
so
It's
if a person has the right personality, however, that's only 34% of what's needed to do that job. Intelligence is 20% if the job is a job that is complex. So personality and intelligence is about 55%. The remaining characteristics you're looking for are learned behaviors. So from the time a person's born until the time you're interviewing them, they have a biography. And you're looking for the behaviors of honesty, work ethic, how they treat people, and sense of responsibility. And then you're looking for their attitudes towards your job and your industry and money motivation. When you're selling insurance, you have to have the right biography to sell insurance. We sell out of our own pocket, our own biography. And so we must be to the point in our biography is I own this, I pay more, here's why I think you should. So we have to measure, what's this person's capacity in this job to really believe in what they're doing. You're going to be a risk advisor. You're going to be advising other people. Do you take your own advice? So you have interview questions that you can ask to find out, where are they in their thinking about our products, our industry, our company, and what motivates them. Are they money motivated? Can they live on your base because they have a working spouse or because they're a minimalist? Do they need $60,000 if that's what they can make?
okay. Man, a lot of statistics around this. I like this. So the one thing that really stood out to me, though, because I've actually had this conversation with a few agents, is the instant gratification, and I find it very interesting that you guys are actually looking for that, because I think an instant gratification can also be a double-edged sword of somebody, especially the younger generation. I think that's part of, like, if they don't see that success, okay, so yeah, you do the 8 quotes a day, you get a quote, but man, that younger generation, I feel, is just like, it can also possibly cause turnover, because if they don't get that like shot of instant gratification, it's like, oh man, I'm going to burn out, or I don't know if I like this anymore. And so, but I do love that you hit on that, because I think there is something to also be said about the other side of the coin when it comes to that.
Yeah, every personality trait is a double-edged sword. It has a good side and a bad side. People who want instant gratification, they're impatient for results. Well, the good side of that is they're going to work with efficiency. The bad side of that is they may get bored and job hop. So you do want to look to see how long have they stayed at their previous jobs. Well, what's the offset to mitigating the risk of somebody who wants instant gratification? Are they money motivated? Do they need the money? Why do they want to do this? Do they have a mission and purpose behind a desire to become an expert risk advisor? I want to become an expert risk advisor, so I'm going to work hard. And they have a hard work ethic and a sense of responsibility. See, those behaviors have to be in place to go along with the personality. If they're not in place, then you get this arrogant, impatient person that nobody wants to be around.
Absolutely.
So are they living on the good side of their personality or the bad side of their personality?
Absolutely. And I think And I think a lot of that also comes back to when you do find the right person, you have to be the right leader as well. The culture of the office goes into a lot of that with team burnout and things like that. So I do have a question, because I was actually talking to a recruiter the other day and he asked me this question. And so I figure I'm going to ask you this question just to see what you think. So, are great salespeople. So the way he related this was, hey, so you've got your Michael Jordans, your Kobe Bryants of the world. Kobe was at the gym 4 a.m. every single morning before anybody in there. MJ didn't even make the 8th grade team, had to work his tail off and became the greatest ever. Are great salespeople born, or are they coached, trained to be great?
That question has the flavor of, I want an easy solution to a complex problem. Because a lot of people who use our personality assessment, the first thing I have to train them to do is to not get caught up in the score on the profile. It's only 35%.
Okay.
Okay. So the answer to the question is it's both. See, born is, do they have the hardwired personality traits? Okay. Are they made? Do they have the behavioral traits to go along with the personality? So you really need the hardwired traits and you need the biography to go together, because it's basic psychology. We're born with certain traits, we learn certain behaviors. We have to measure those. And if you're using, first of all, if you're educating yourself on what those are, and you're willing to take the time to develop the skill of interviewing and recruiting, then you're going to learn how to measure those. And then, so the goal here is to hire somebody so that we know what's this person's strengths, what are their challenges, what am I going to have to coach. You can't coach lazy. You can't coach ignorant. So there are certain things you can't coach. So you have to make sure that you're hiring the right person who has the capacity to be coached.
That's right.
And then,
that.
To become a good coach, you really have to educate yourself on what is coaching. Coaching is diagnosing. I have to diagnose why they're doing what they're doing. Well, how do I do that? And so there's methods and processes of learning to become a good coach.
Absolutely. No, I love that. See, I answered it very similar. You just you just explained it better. So, because I believe that some folks, I believe that we can train people to be good and possibly even great if it's with. But I think there are those folks that have the innate traits, capabilities that do help them progress maybe quicker, faster, further than some others. And so I love that. Born with traits, learn behaviors.
Think of a basketball coach example. Okay. You have recruiters out there. You're a Division I college coach. You have recruiters out there who are looking for talent. Okay. They're looking for, how tall is this person? How fast do they run? Okay. That's genetic. They're looking at, well, how hard have they worked to improve their skills? What's their 3-point percentage? What's their foul shot percentage? What do they look like in playing on defense? Now, see, they have the luxury, though, of looking at somebody who's already mastered the craft. Okay? So let's assume that you're a Division III high school. And so you have to build a team with the people who come and try out. You don't have a choice. Okay? A coach is going to look and say, okay, this person has the right height. They're fast. They show up to practice. And they're working hard while they're here. So what I'm seeing is capacity that the amount of time and effort that I put into that person, I'm going to get a good return. Another person comes and tries out. They're 5'4". They're slow. See, it's obvious that that coach can say, the amount of time and effort that I put into that person is not going to get a good return. No matter how good of a coach I am, that person does not have the capacity to do this. So we have to be real careful, because in basketball, it's easy.
Yep.
6'10" versus 5'4". Okay, that's easy. Okay, it's not easy when you're looking at salespeople. So it's really important to really understand, well, what do I look for? How do I measure that? Because if we go into this with this, what I call unconscious incompetence, I don't know what I don't know, but I have this attitude, I'm a great coach. I think I can turn this person into a great salesperson. Well, what evidence do you have that you can turn this person into a great salesperson? What did you do to measure their personality and their behaviors? Or are you just being overconfident? Well, you're going to know in 3 months, or you're going to know, during the process. 3-month process is, it's kind of expensive.
That it is. It is. So I got it. This question just came to me, so I got to ask, because I believe COVID sped this up, and I think this is only going to become more relevant. Now, this is obviously just Michael Weaver's opinion, but remote workers. And so do the characteristics, the traits that you are looking for, does it change any now when maybe possibly to look at expanding your office to remote workers that you're not going to be around every day, that you're not going to, it's just a different management level as well, but from an actual sales profile characteristics, does anything change?
Well, when it comes to working remotely, time will tell as to if this is a fad or not. Certain personalities need structure. Individuals with lower deadline motivation and lower independent spirit, those and their social confidence. Those are the 3 traits that determine whether or not a person is a self-starter or if they need to be led, if they need the structure of getting up, driving to the office, staying at the office, being managed. Well, most service people, their personality profile is not self-starter, it's structure. And so you have that piece of it. You also have work ethic and discipline. So, they can have the right personality to be a self-starter, but if they don't have the work ethic and the discipline, then they're going to get distracted, because we have a lot of distractions in America. And then also we have to look at and find out, what is the work environment? As a remote worker, what is your work environment? Are you a stay-at-home parent that you're looking for remote work because all of a sudden now we don't have to pay for daycare? And so you're going to try to work a full-time job and your children are at home. That's a really important thing to figure out. Are you living in an apartment with 2 roommates? So asking a lot of interview questions about the environment in which they're going to be working, does it lend itself to few distractions? And then you have to look at their personality to see if they're a self-starter. Can they work independent without a lot of close supervision? And then you have to look at their discipline, their work ethic, their sense of responsibility. Given the lack of supervision, can they discipline themselves to do what they need to do? It's a very complicated situation because we're trying to go to remote workers, but we don't have this track record of some scientists coming in and saying, okay, if you want remote workers, here's what you need to do to figure out if that's going to work out.
Absolutely. No, and I and I know it's very new, and again, could just be a fad. I don't know. But I had to ask you. You're the expert here, so I wanted to know. So Steve, Thank you so much for coming on today. This has been really, really good, very informative. I think I've taken more notes today than I have on any podcast. So, no, thank you. So, Steve, what's the best way if somebody wanted to reach out, contact you, connect with you? What's the best way for someone to do
To send
that?
me an email. And my email address is Steve Suggs, STEVESUGGS, at mac.com. That's the best way to reach me.
Perfect.
We do have a website. It's salesmanage.com. You can go over there to that website. And if you'd like to schedule a telephone call with me, I'll even give you that link. And it is salesmanage.com/contact/Steve.
Perfect. And all of this will obviously be in the show notes. Are you in social, Steve? Can anyone follow
Yes,
you on social? Obviously,
yeah,
I
I'm
know
on
LinkedIn for
LinkedIn.
sure.
Yeah, we've got about 11,000 contacts over there on LinkedIn, and I'm on Facebook. It's more of a personal. You'll see pictures of the mountains on Facebook and my grandkids. That's about it. But you can get a lot of information about me from my LinkedIn. I've got 40 recommendations over there, so a lot of people have volunteered to go over there and give us some good recommendations. And but the best thing to do is to schedule a call with me. I'm willing to have conversations with people to answer their questions and tell them about the things that we can do to help them.
Absolutely. Well, Steve, thank you so much. And for everyone listening today, as you all know, time's the most valuable and important asset that we all have. So I appreciate you spending the last 35 minutes with Steve and I. Steve, thank you again for your time, my man. I appreciate you very much.
It's my pleasure. Glad to do it.
So if y'all like the episode today, make sure you give us a 5-star review. Go in, share, tell people about the Insurance Buzz. Other than that, my friends, go out and